Welcome to another episode of Forbidden Depths. Today we are featuring somebody pretty amazing. I've been following her for a while, and I'm going to tell you, if you don't follow her, you need to. If you could go ahead and please introduce yourself to everyone.
Hello, I'm Miss Laci, and thank you so much, Miss Laci Sedona. Thank you so much for having me today.
You are very welcome. I am super glad to have you. Now, I do want to let everyone know that if you don't follow her, she has an amazing Twitter page. You can get on over to Twitter, give her a follow. At the very least, just be supportive. So today we're going to talk to Miss Laci about her profession. Can you kind of tell us what you do? Introduce yourself to us.
Okay, well, I'm a dominatrix, and specifically, I'm a humiliatrix. So I specialize in humiliation. Um, I'm definitely into corporal punishment. I'm a little bit on the heavy side. I'm heavy-handed, and I really love what I do.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna tell you, it has been a joy following you on Twitter because I too enjoy humiliation. And I find especially I was watching one of your it was your pin Twitter, I'm pretty sure. The one where you're being rough with one of your submissives and you just like haul off and you kick the shit out of him. And I'm gonna tell you I'm going to tell you, I loved it from my perspective. Now, I do want to let everyone know that in the community, everything you do is going to be consensual, and the person that you're involved with wants to be there. It's not one of those forced situations. So, Laci, if you could kind of tell us about the relationships you have with that sub or people like that sub. Tell us kind of how they feel in that moment about the humiliation.
Okay, well, getting on about him specifically. So this is an interesting one. He actually is a power lifter,
Mhm.
and we had talked about specifically his corporal punishment sessions. And for he told me that he sees it as a way to kind of like amp himself up to get ready for a big meet, which I
Mhm.
thought was very interesting. It was kind of like for him, it's like, how much can I take? How tough am I? Like,
Right.
like very.
Yeah.
So he's probably like the toughest one I've ever dealt with. Like, I mean, I literally go to town on him, and like you said, it is consensual. He is a big guy. I would probably say he's easily about 260 pounds, 5'11", lifts weights, hardcore.
Yeah.
And I'm not, people always think I'm a lot taller than I am. I am not really that big of a person. I'm like about 5'4". So it
Oh, I
is,
didn't know this.
yeah,
Oh.
everyone thinks I'm super tall. I'm not. So,
Well, I thought you were definitely taller, so
um, so he just lets me, and I do ball busting with him too. He just lets me go, and it's like it is actually it's like cardio. It's a lot
yes.
of work. Like I'm exhausted
Oh,
by the end
yes.
of my session. So once again, to highlight, like that's all consensual, and at any point
Yes.
where if something's becoming too much, or I mean, I'm there as a professional, so I'm
Mhm.
listening, hearing. I'm like using all my senses. He
Yes.
doesn't even actually have to tell me when he's reaching a peak, because I'm paying attention,
Right.
and I might back off a little and say, "Hey, do you want to take a breather?" And he's like, "Yes."
Right.
He'll take a minute, like, and then we'll come back into it. So,
Right. Yes.
as far as humiliation, there's a wide range of why people are interested in that. Some feel like it's the ultimate form of submission.
Mhm.
Some, it's just a personal kink for them that sexually excites them.
Right.
And then there's other components that go deeper, of people trying to work out, trauma,
Mhm.
and maybe being bullied in the past, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that part I don't really get shared with as much, but I'm always
Right.
open to any sub who wants to talk to me on a deeper level about their kinks. I'm open to that discussion.
Right, 100%. And I feel like that's one thing that all providers of the kink and fetish community do. We are essentially therapists to individuals that need it, especially those that they don't have anywhere else to go for it. They're like, I can only trust you with this. And that trust is a powerful thing, don't you think?
It's yeah, it's a great responsibility, really.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So, whenever you got into the industry, was it something that you kind of leaped into? Did you kind of have to find your way? Did you have a mentor?
So I actually started doing a different form of sex work, and I am not a very submissive person.
Mhm,
So I had experience with that in my very early 20s,
mhm,
and I came out of that. I had some trauma linked to those working as a sex worker under a different pretense. I
okay,
won't like delve too deep into that, but I did have some trauma related to that. I came out of that. Had a normal, well, I mean, I still have a normal life, but I
mhm,
had, I kind of, I left that whole thing alone and went
right,
on and started my life over, whatever you want to call it. And then as I got older, I started to explore, what sex work could do for me because I don't know. I still, even though I didn't have a positive experience with that past work, I knew that there was something in me um that did enjoy working with people in that capacity. So
right,
I'm a very dominant person, just all by myself naturally, always have been.
mhm,
And I mean, it wasn't something I grew up knowing about, like that
right,
dominatrixes exist, but just over time it was like, wow, okay, this is like the perfect job for me. Like there couldn't be a
right,
better job for who I am, like personality wise. And so I did actually reach out to somebody, and I did a little bit of stuff with them, but I wouldn't actually call it a mentorship.
mhm,
But she did kind of, she basically showed me around and showed me kind of what she did and how she ran things on a very general basis.
mhm,
And then I created my own little situation. And at first it was just very like sporadic. And then I developed, the name I was gonna work under
right,
and all the fine details.
right, yes, okay, okay. Now, um, whenever you originally came into sex work, it wasn't a good experience for you. Was there a reason that you started then? Was it just like you were interested in the kink community? What happened there?
Well, that's a really complicated story, but essentially, when I did get into it, it was kind of a last resort, and I
Mhm,
was already over the age of 18. I mean, I wasn't a
right,
child or anything,
right,
but I had made some bad decisions and put myself in some really bad places
mhm,
as being a young woman, and I
mhm,
found myself caught up in some pretty dark, heavy stuff.
right,
And I find that being a dominatrix today is very empowering
mhm,
for I feel like I'm pretty well healed and
yeah.
adjusted after that experience that I had. And part of that was being a dominatrix.
Yes. So that's one of my favorite things. The biggest trend that I noticed with DOMs in the community is that over time, holding your position makes you feel empowered. It makes you feel liberated. It just brings all these positive lights to your life. So that brings me to my next question. With being a Dom, now a prominent part of your life, how has it changed you?
I feel like I'm very good with in my personal life with boundaries, and that
Mhm.
includes, dating, what I'm willing to put up with, knowing who I like really know who I am as a person, which all young people have to go through that coming into
Oh, yeah.
themselves. And it's, I've even like from year to year, like I continue to grow as a person with, uh, trusting myself, trusting others,
Mhm.
communication. I mean, the list is so long that I mean, all the skills are transferable skills.
Yes.
And I feel like I'm at a point where like I'm a pretty well-rounded person.
Yes. And I do love that so much. A lot of people don't realize that those skills are transferable. You can literally take something, maybe it helped you with your confidence, maybe it did help you with your boundaries, and you bring that from your professional life over to your personal life. You're like, you know what? I'm not going to put with anybody's shit anymore.
Hmm. Yep.
So that itself is super, super empowering. Oh, I did not mention before, if anyone is trying to find Miss Laci on Twitter, you can find her at Miss Laci Sedona on Twitter. So give her a follow.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So whenever you kind of were finding your strengths to help you in sex work, what did you find most of those were? So what do you feel like the qualities, strengths that you would need to be successful are?
You definitely have to be self-driven at to a degree. It's not very structured. You have to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to read people. That one's pretty important.
Oh yes.
Paying attention to detail. Um, I do think having a certain amount of street smarts is super important. I did not, get trained under in a dungeon or something like that.
Right.
Like all the things I learned was going out on my own
Mm-hmm.
and navigating, learning how to screen, all that stuff by myself. Like when I started, I mean, it wasn't like there was like some ebook of like
Yeah.
how to do this or something.
Yeah, 100%. Speaking of, I was talking to you earlier about maybe making something to kind of help those babies, the people that get started in sex work that don't have experience. So that's something that I actually want to look at in the future. So I'm super glad you said that. Of course, it's not going to be an ebook, but it's going to be just a session where I'm talking to people, kind of explaining stuff like that to them. I feel like for people like us that had to start on our own and kind of just fumble through it, I feel like I would have loved that. Someone to be like, here are some tools that's going to help you with your foundation so you don't have to struggle as hard.
I agree with you. It would have been nice, but at the same time, like something cool that I think about time to time is like I'm not taking the way that I do things is like I'm not taking pieces from other people's ideas at the end of the
Mhm.
day.
Yeah,
So, and I mean, as far as screening goes, I mean, there's not one right way to do some of these things,
that's
but
right.
there are things that are still essentials no matter how you choose to do things if you want to stay safe.
Yes.
So, I think for as far as people learning stuff, like that would be the really important part.
Mhm.
But developing your own style, like I don't think you
Yeah,
can
no, for
really
sure.
learn how to do that from somebody.
So I was talking to someone in my last interview, and they were telling me they're from the UK. They were telling me that there's an app called Hollyguard that sounded amazing. So this guy developed it because his daughter essentially was murdered, and it's literally a location app where you can share your location with your friends. It records like video and photos whenever you shake the phone or if it feels like something's happening with the phone.
Uh-huh.
So I thought that was something that was really, really cool. And I do want to throw that out there for anybody in the UK. I haven't researched it yet to know if it's available in the US, but I would love more tools like that to be available for us because ultimately safety is one of the biggest concerns that you should have for yourself,
Yeah,
regardless of what environment you're in and who you're with. It doesn't matter if it's with somebody that you just met or somebody that you've known for 10 years. I mean, you can't get too comfortable and then feel like you can trust this person because that's when you could get hurt.
yeah, absolutely.
So that's one of the things I wanted to do, kind of providing information about safety more than
Mhm.
anything, because
Good.
I feel like that's something that's just kind of not talked about.
I feel like it's very like insider information.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So with us talking about you creating kind of your own structure, let's talk about how you incorporate that as a job. So how's it different than a like a 9 to 5 structure?
Well, I mean, I'm in a small area. I'm in Eastern Tennessee, and so it's not like I'm in San Francisco and just like seeing subs every day, day after day after day.
Yeah.
I don't do that many sessions a month. Sometimes I travel, and
Mhm.
well, I'm not gonna even get into that story about Backpage and everything. But anyways, things have changed. Things
Right.
have, my mind like starts to think of all kinds of different ways we're going down. But I mean, things have changed with how we do
Mhm.
stuff now and how we
Yeah,
advertise.
right.
But so I'm not like cranking out sessions left and right. But I have a normal life.
Mhm.
I have several different small businesses that I do. I actually just got done with school, and I'm an esthetician now. So I
I
do.
did see that. Congratulations,
Thank
by the
you.
way. Okay,
Thank
now you can
you.
continue.
So, you know, with technology now, it's very easy to run multiple things in your life. So of course I
Yeah.
have my business email, my
Mhm.
business Twitter, all this stuff on my phone. So
Yeah,
it's really kind of seamless into my day. If I get an
right.
inquiry, I respond to it when I get a chance to.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, even I might be doing another job and talking to a sub at the same time on my phone. Like
Yeah.
it's really seamless for me.
Okay. So
And
you like
it's not every day. I'm not doing sessions every day.
mhm, and you just kind of ingrain it to your everyday life.
Yeah, it just kind of fits in.
Okay.
So
So whenever we talk about how you kind of got your start, how long ago was that? How long have you been living the Dom life?
oh man, I don't know now. Might be like it might be 7 years or something like as a dom.
Hmm. Okay. And so the 7 years that you've had, kind of what's that taught you?
I've learned a lot about, you know, taking care of myself, relying on myself. A lot of stuff about building a business, really. I taught
Oh
myself
yeah.
how to I mean I mean I don't know how to write code, but I taught myself how to put together a basic website and it took me like 6 months to do that. Like I'm not a computer whiz, so like when I first went to make my website, I sat there and when I say every day, I mean every day for 6 months, like frustrated, ready to quit. And then it was like I got my website. I'm like, okay, this actually looks okay. And then I
Mhm.
figured out, oh wait, this doesn't work on mobile. And I was like, like I have to like somehow reconfigure everything. So like and I taught myself how to do editing. Like I'm not the world's best editor, but I learned by myself and that was
Right.
also like very frustrating
Mhm.
and that was sitting there for hours trying to figure out how to do it. And it
Mhm.
was and I've learned a lot of things and those like we were talking about transferable skills earlier like I can use the building of the website, the video editing, all this stuff, small business marketing, all this stuff I can use in other areas. I can use
Yeah.
that for building my esthetician business now.
Yes, 100%, 100%. And that's what I tell everybody too, like you have to learn all of these different qualities whenever you become a sex worker. It's not like you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm just this one thing." No. You then become a producer, you become a marketer, you become an editor. Like you have
Yeah,
all of these things you got to learn to do. I think it's a beautiful thing because it kind of teaches you how to do a lot of that stuff on your own. Like some people go hire people to do it because obviously, just like you were talking about, it's exhausting sometimes to figure things out. But once you do figure those out, especially if you're self-employed kind of individual, you can use that all around.
yeah, and it's like a sense of accomplishment. Like, hey
Yeah.
man, I stuck with it, and like I figured it out.
Yeah. 100%. And it's kind of like the aha moment when the light comes on. You're like, I did that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about your aspirations. So whenever you were younger, kind of what did you want to do? What did you want to be?
I believe I wanted to be a writer.
Oh, nice. You know,
So I never really followed through with that one.
mm, well, I don't know about that because I mean, that is a part, the imagination aspect is a part of your life now as a dom. So I
That's
mean,
true.
you still get to do some kind of writing stuff, especially if you're coming up like this elaborate. I'm sure somebody's asked for some kind of elaborate something from you. There are people that ask for some pretty elaborate things and you have to like write them out, detail, especially if you do online work. You have to
Hmm.
like write them out and be detailed with like the experience as a whole. I remember um I had this one guy that wanted to do a kind of CNC kind of situation. And he's like giving this information to me. He's like, I want it to sound like this, and I want you to be really rough with me. Now, this was just a clip, but I'm gonna tell you, I spent hours and hours and hours coming up with what I wanted to do in this because it was like so crazy elaborate.
Oh wow.
But my point is all of your talents, you can literally bring them over to sex work, whoever you want to be in sex work, and you can let that shine through. Everybody's going to have their own individual talents, but you use those as strengths with whatever you're pursuing.
Absolutely.
So that kind of brings me to my next question for you. Whenever you got started with humiliation, what kind of drew you to
It was easy for me.
that?
Like I have kind of I don't know. I mean, growing up, I was always told I have like a mean sense of humor,
Hmm.
and I really never felt like I never really feel like I'm being mean, but like the feedback I get is like, "Hey, that's too rough." Like,
Yeah.
so for me, it's very much a part of like just how my banter is,
Hmm.
and it kind of just I just kind of found that it became so easy, especially with males, for me to for it to come off as demeaning, emasculating. It
Hmm.
I'm not, I'm not working too hard at it because my sense of humor is kind of already there.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Okay.
it just kind of felt natural, I guess you could say.
Yes. Well, and that's like what I was talking about, just bringing your talents over. Like you literally just get to be yourself, just
Hmm.
exist, and that's a product.
Yeah, like my persona is like not crazily removed from who I actually am.
Mhm.
I am very, I mean, beyond the theatrics of uh, putting on boots for a photo shoot or
Right.
whatever. Like the personality that subs see with me in real life is like it's me.
Yes. And that is such a beautiful thing for us to not actually be performers, but be real and make a job of that. Like that's
Mhm.
super fucking awesome. And that's what I tell everybody too. They're like, "Oh, you're so perfect," all this stuff. I'm like, "No, I'm not perfect. I'm real." And I don't think the majority of them understand that, but we understand it, so it's okay. So let's talk about the kink world. Do you yourself have any kinks?
Oh, that's a tough question. I feel like the things that I'm personally interested in are not that kinky. I guess
Okay.
I don't know because I'm in this
Yes.
industry where in comparison I feel like I'm vanilla, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I mean, so like for example, um, and don't you subs get any fucking ideas. Um, but for example, like I like cream pies, which I think
Mhm.
is kind of I'm a female, like
Mhm.
that kind of falls into what in my mind I think is things that females I know all females don't, but you know what I
Right.
mean? Like it
Yeah.
seems almost kind of natural because it's a reproductive thing. So
Yes.
to
Right.
me, like, I don't really see it as being that kinky. But
Right. Yeah.
stuff like that.
And like kink is a spectrum. It's one of those things that what we find not kinky, other people were like, yeah, it's super kinky.
Mhm.
But because we are exposed to it, it's one of those things where we're like, yeah, it's not really. That's like I had several people ask me if I was kinky over my lifespan, and I'm just like, no. Like, if somebody looks in and they see me, they're like, yeah, you're a fucking freak.
Yeah,
but
yeah, from the
but
outside in.
yeah, but whenever we're thinking about it, because it's part of our life, it's so normal to us that it's just like, yeah, no, that's not really kinky. But in all reality, there's a spectrum, and kink is kind of relative in most positions. So I think I feel like that is kinky because I'm gonna tell you, I do not enjoy those. I am not a fan at all. I am not a fan at all. I'm
Okay,
like, yeah, no. So I feel
that's
like um when it comes to those kinks, I feel like you don't have to like something to accept it. Be
mhm,
like, awesome. I'm so excited you have something that works for you. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Instead of being on the opposite end of the spectrum, just like some kind of shitbag that's like, oh, yeah, no, that's gross. That's like, I think too many people find things gross and they don't know how to empathize with others.
Mhm.
So I think it causes a lot of conflict, even internally for themselves, because that shame comes from somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Like they have to feel some kind of shame somewhere for them to be projecting like that. So I feel like if you're a well-rounded person, you're like, yeah, that's cool. It's not for me, but it's cool.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So let's talk about, since we were talking about kinks, let's talk about abnormal kinks. How do you feel about them? And do you have any hard limits?
Okay. Well, what's an abnormal kink?
Okay, so abnormal kinks would be anything that you don't see every day. So, well, the stuff that you do is abnormal kinks. If you're beating the shit out of somebody, I mean, that's pretty
Yeah,
abnormal.
and see, that's normal to me now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that is normal to you. So,
So, okay,
uh,
I got a good one.
okay.
So, scat.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay, so what was the question again? My bad.
How do you feel about it? How do the abnormal kinks, like, how do you perceive them? Is it something that you feel like, well, we were just talking about acceptance. Is it something that you feel like, if someone kind of proposed it to you, do you think you would be like, oh, let me try it one time or maybe twice to see if I like it? Or is it just like, yeah, no, that's just not for me. I'm just not into it.
So, are we talking about in my profession as a dominatrix?
Yes.
Okay, so I am very open minded. I have like very few hard, fast rules, but they're the
Mhm.
serious ones.
Right.
No minors,
Hmm.
um, no like permanent. I don't do permanent disfiguration.
Hmm.
Um, Everything has to be consensual. No
Hmm.
animals. So those
Hmm.
no, and obviously no death. Like
Right. Right. Yeah. I don't think
anything,
we ever get paid enough for that.
anything else is pretty fair game, and I actually do scat stuff.
Mhm.
So um,
Awesome.
I'm pretty open minded, and just because, so I'm not really sure like if there's maybe a fantasy out there for submissives that, oh, this is my kink is just because my dominatrix is willing to play in this way, like this is a hot turn on for her.
Hmm.
Because, and it might be for some, for me, like I'm not horny when I'm engaging in work. Like
Right.
this is my job, I'm not getting off from
Right.
your kink. Like, so for as the perfect example for scat, like I'm not being turned on by shitting
Hmm.
in your mouth. You might be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
I'm
really cool
personally
thing
not
about
into
that,
that.
you can be there, be present, and be providing this form of therapy for them. And I think they don't understand that we kind of have to be more aware. We can't dive too deep in the mindset because we have to be able to check on them at all times. It's like we're the babysitter,
Mhm.
kind of. You have to be in a mindset where you can be like, hey, are you okay? Do we need to take a minute?
Yeah.
Um, do you feel like the situation made you feel good? Did it make you feel bad? Kind of give me a rundown so I know where you are. So whenever you are working with a submissive and in one of those situations, do you encourage using some kind of like safe word, or is it just like, just tell me to stop, just tell me, like, how do you direct them to a safe word or to guide you whenever you need guided, whenever they need to pause?
So if someone comes to me and is like, "Hey, this is a safe word that I use. Can we use that?" I'm like, "Okay."
Mhm.
I kind of to me, safe word always feels like it's something we're doing out of a movie. So I
Yeah.
always say at the beginning of a session, I'm like, communication is really important to me.
Oh, yes.
If something's too much, tell me. As long as you talk to me in a respectful tone. And I'm also, like I said earlier, I'm watching, listening, feeling.
Right.
Um, I'm looking out for you in the session because my goal is not to cause you permanent damage, permanent bodily harm, not even
Yeah.
permanent psychological harm. Like that's
Yeah.
not what I'm here for. Um, so I don't really use safe words.
Mhm.
I just let them talk to me.
Yes. I love it. I love it. And that's kind of what I do too. So
Mhm.
I do use a safe word, especially if it's a more seasoned sub, because
Okay.
they've been through kind of, it's kind of like a dance. They've been through it before. But the newer people, it is hard to remember something, especially if you feel like you're under duress or if you feel like you're overstimulated. That is hard to come up with a word. I know because I've been in the situation before. It's one of those things where I'm just like, just tell me to stop. Just let me know. Just communicate. Just be like, hey, I need a minute.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do. It doesn't have to be like these theatrics. It doesn't have to be these giant like pineapple. Like nobody
Yeah. Yeah.
remembers that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Pineapple.
so whenever it comes back to kind of kinks and limits, let's go ahead and go back to the limits. Like the majority of the limits you have, they're pretty standard. We do the absolutely no children, absolutely no pets, and absolutely consensual. So, besides that, how did you determine what your other hard limits would be? Did you kind of, is that something that you picked up along the way?
Um, well, I don't switch, so that I guess that's another one I didn't mention.
Hmm.
I just, I mean, to me, like my own like morals and
Hmm.
what I want for myself just made it very easy to like
Hmm.
know where the lines were for me.
Right. So, more or less, knowing yourself, knowing who you are fundamentally, it gave you the ability to decide what those would be.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. So, for anyone listening that kind of has trouble with knowing where your hard limits are, don't ever say you don't have hard limits. Everyone has hard limits. Do not tell me you do not have hard limits. It's a matter of you haven't explored enough to know them. And that's fine. That's fine. It's fine to not know what your limits are, but don't say you don't have any. Kind of like Laci and I both were talking about, your hard limits are something that you kind of you have to find. So either on a fundamental level, you're going to find out who you are as you work through sex work, and it's going to help you determine those limits. Or you're going to know right off the bat, hey, this is not for me. Just like the consensual stuff, the going nowhere near kids or pets kind of stuff, those all go in the consensual category. Those things cannot consent.
Yeah.
So automatically we know those are a no-go. The rest of the stuff, you kind of have to know yourself and fumble through stuff. So don't be discouraged if you don't know what your hard limits are. Just find them, right? So let's then go back to your headspace. Whenever you kind of decided you wanted to be a dominatrix and you found the empowering, productive experience that you've had, how has it affected you mentally? So what's that done for you?
It just kind of cements like this is who I am in the world, and I'm doing something that is very synergistic with who I already am.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And
Okay.
I've had a lot of good experiences with people who have told me things like I've helped them grow through
Mm-hmm.
our sessions. I've helped them grow as a
I love it.
person.
Yeah.
Um, I've had one sub who just moved away, but he let me know that when he first started coming to me, you know, he was struggling with ego, and I
Mm-hmm.
pretty much um, gave I don't know, for lack of a better word right now, like a little bit of ego death. And
Yeah.
these are things that do help develop your character.
Yes.
If you're seeing, you know, somebody, a professional who truly, you know, who truly cares about their work, there's a good chance that you're going to get more out of a session than just like some entertainment.
Yes. I was actually talking to one of my subs previously. I've been seeing him now for a year, and he comes up to me the very last session and he's like, "You have been the biggest lifesaver." He's like, "I've had more progress with you than I've had my entire life with therapists."
I
And
love that.
I was like, "Yes,
Yay.
this is what I'm here for."
Yeah.
So that's super rewarding for us. Anyone that is a submissive that's listening, anyone that is just curious about the kind of flip side of that coin, we like to know that you like what we're doing too. We like to know that we're helping you too. Like, yes, we are confident in our skills because we are seasoned, but at the same time, it is damn nice to hear someone appreciate you and value you in the work that you do. It doesn't matter where you're from, what kind of work you're doing. We like to be valued. We like to know, hey, you're doing something right, you know?
Oh yeah, like we love feedback. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of times I don't know, um I feel like maybe submissives are like nervous or scared, and you know, they've heard so much like, you know, not to talk too much or not to
Yeah.
express too much because they're submissive to shut up. But
Mhm.
like genuine conversation,
Mhm.
if it's genuine and you're just not rambling at us, you're actually giving us feedback. Like we want to hear that.
Yeah.
We like that. My
100%.
my favorite is like after a session, I get an email that was like, I had a really great time. I really enjoyed that. That makes me feel
Yeah.
really good because that doesn't happen all the time. A lot of times the session ends, the person goes away, and you're just left wondering, did they like it? Did they have fun? Are they
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
So we like hearing real feedback.
Yes. And I kind of try to do that as aftercare too. So I have like a prep stage where I'm talking to them about disclosures and, how to be safe and how to be confident and comfortable. And then we slide into the scene. And then after that, it's like, cool. How did everything make you feel? How do you feel right now? What's going on with you? And some people are like, yeah, I don't do that thing. And I'm like, it's cool. If that's something you don't do, it's cool. But I like to do that so that I know where your headspace is so I
Yeah.
can make sure you're cool. And I always love when someone is talking to me and they're like, "Oh, well, this is how I felt in this moment. Maybe
Mhm.
we should try more of this. Maybe we should try less of this." Because in order for the relationship to develop and have a strong foundation so that the growth is natural and positive on both sides, we need that communication. Like, communicate, over communicate, because it's better to do that than not tell us at all and walk away with like your tail between your legs, scared shitless, not wanting to do it again.
Yeah.
Like, we need to know those things. We can't read your mind. I've been preaching this forever. So I'm super glad that the majority of it since you came into your dom role has been super, super awesome. So, since of course you were a submissive at one time and it just wasn't for you, what made you kind of the comparison? what made you prefer the dom role over the submissive role?
It just feels right for me, honestly. I
Mhm,
mean, it's just that simple. It just feels right.
mhm. So it feels like
Um,
it's more a part of you.
I'm a terrible submissive.
Mhm.
I guess what they refer to as like a brat or something.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, I'm just more naturally geared to being the person in control, and as a
Mhm.
submissive, like I'm a naughty, I'm bad, I'm a pain in the
Yeah.
ass.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And I can completely understand and respect that. I'm gonna tell you, I'm quite similar. And okay, so you cannot say that you're a true dominant if you haven't experienced submission. I don't care what anyone says. You can pretend and, be in this facade all day long, but ultimately you can't decide that you're one thing without experiencing the other things. You need that experience. That's like going into a job and being like, "Oh, well, only this specific one is for me." And they're like, "Well, how do you know? Did you try the other ones?" And they're like, "No, this is just what I want to do." Cool. It's cool that that's what you want to do, but it doesn't mean that something else couldn't be for you.
Yeah.
So it's cool to get to kind of express yourself and learn and see if it's for you or if it's not. My problem as a submissive was I domed really hard from the bottom.
Oh no.
So even with me being the submissive, I was like, nah, bitch, you're doing it this way. You can
Yeah.
put your hand here,
Yeah.
hold me here. And then it's like, I'm trying to be submissive for you, but I don't do a good, like, I'm trying. You gotta, the effort's there. It's just a matter of I don't do well unless someone is listening, and I guess I over communicate. So I expect other people to over communicate. And sometimes people don't know how to do that. So I'm like, let me tell you what to do. So you know what to do.
Yeah.
So that's probably my downfall as a submissive. But some people like that. Some people don't have a problem with taking that direction. That's why I only prefer I guess more switchy kind of mates. Like
Mhm.
I love my submissives, but when it comes to a mate, I feel like you got to kind of be switchy to kind of just roll with my shit cuz I'm up and I'm down. I'm
Mhm.
all over the place. So, it's one of those things where communicate, like over communicate.
Yes, ma'am.
So, let's talk about the best part about being a dominatrix.
I'm running through everything in my head right. I mean, there's the whole aspect of just it being something that I'm doing independently. So having creative freedom,
Oh, yes.
flexibility, no, I'm setting my own limits, my own rules. I like that. I like being my own boss. So that's huge. Um, I love being a humiliatrix because like I said, that feels natural for me.
Yeah.
It's easy for me, and I actually do have fun a lot of the times. I like to have fun. Like if I'm not having fun in the session, like I'm over it, man. Like
Yeah.
I want to be able to have fun when I'm doing it just as much as the sub's enjoying it, and not like I said, not from a sexual standpoint, but just literally enjoy like having a good time and like laughing.
Mhm.
I laugh in every single session. Like
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I don't even know if there's been sessions where I don't laugh. I always end up laughing. Like,
Mhm.
and I love that. Like I'm
Yes.
scary and whatever, but there's this other side of me that's like I like to smile and have fun and like joke
Mhm.
around
Yeah,
while we're
and you
doing
can
the
do
session.
both.
You can.
It doesn't like we are not these robots.
Yeah.
We're not robots. And for so many people to come to us and expect us to be, it's ridiculous. I remember this one guy that approached me and he's like, "I want to be your submissive." And I'm like, "Cool, you can apply." And he's like, okay, let me go ahead and apply. Well, he's like, let me ask you a question first. And I'm like, okay, cool. He's like, what do you wear? And I'm like, what do you mean what do I wear? Like I wear regular clothes like a human being. Well, unless I'm by myself where I don't have people looking at me because then I'm probably naked. But like overall, I'm pretty clothed. And he's like, but what kind of clothes? Like regular ones. I don't know what you're asking. And he's like, oh, well, you mean you don't wear leather and latex all the time? And I'm like, no, nobody wears leather and latex all the time. If they tell you they are, they're lying. Like, nobody wants to wear that all the time. Like, I have a leather fetish. So I can tell you, even loving leather, that there are times when I need a break from it. It's very constricting. And
Yeah.
this guy's like, oh, well, you're not a real dominatrix. That means I don't want to serve you anymore.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, you've been watching too many movies.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was thinking in my head. Like a lot of the I don't know, the pop stuff in the media portrays dominatrix as being the whips, chains, leather, and it's like, man, most of the time, like I might wear yoga pants and bare feet. I'm primal. A lot of my stuff is I use my body to dominate, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm I'm active. Like I
Yeah.
want to be able to move freely. Heels do not make that happen. Latex does not make that happen.
100%. And that brings me to another point. Like, all of these people that want to be ball busted and all this other stuff by these giant pleaser heels, and they want you to look all sexy and just flowing during your session. I'm going to tell you, if you want somebody to wear latex and these giant heels and all this other stuff, it's going to be more constricting for them. One, they're not going to have an experience like you think. And then two, some of the angles might be a little bit off whenever they're trying to do shit, and you got to give them time to get there. Like,
Yeah,
you yourself know that there are certain things that allow us to move freely to be able to do what we do as a dom. Well, some stuff it's more constricting. It's harder to perform. So it's one of those things where, do you want, like, what kind of experience do you want? Like, if you
yeah,
want that movie stuff, it's cool. It's cool. We can do that. But there's accommodations that'll need made. Have you had that
right. You're
experience,
not going to get the
Laci?
same
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
So also, I'm going to charge you more, and you might have to buy the outfit. Like,
Yes. Yes. Like, you cannot ask for like this $2,000 outfit and expect us to have it. Like, you're going to have to buy that shit and
yeah,
make accommodations for it. Because at that point, that's your fantasy that you're buying, and you have to purchase the items for it. Plus, all the time it takes us to get in that. Have you ever been in a latex cat suit? It is rough. Even like latex gloves, let me
hmm
tell you, they take forever, especially the ones that come all the way up your arm, because you're like sitting pulling this forever.
yeah.
And then whenever you go to take it off, it takes forever to get it off because it's stuck to you.
Peel it off your skin.
There's so much prep that goes with that.
That
So,
to me, that's like that's photo shoot shit. The rest of the
yeah,
time, no. Thank you.
yeah, 100%. And that kind of goes back to unrealistic expectations that they have for us because they don't know. Like, if you don't know, it's cool. You can ask us. And if you want those things, that's cool too. We can provide them, but it's going to take more time. It's going to cost more, and we're going to have limited range of motion. So you got to factor those things in. I'm going to tell you right now, whenever I am pegging someone and I have to be in like all this made up garb that I can't really move in, it's not going to be as nice because it's like, your hips have limited range of motion. Your legs are kind of like, they can't work adequately, like the angles and stuff. So it's like, to me, it's harder to even get the angles. Like,
Yeah, To me, it doesn't even seem worthwhile unless someone's
Mm,
intent on turning it into a clip.
yeah. Yeah. And then it's not about how it feels, it's about how it looks. When you're filming, it's about how it looks. If you someone is listening that don't really know that, whenever you're filming, it's all about the presentation. It's not actually about the action. So your experience can be positive, but it's not going to feel the same. Is that what you've experienced, Lacey?
Yes, ma'am. I actually don't really like doing the theatric stuff at all. I've had
Mhm.
people who wanted stuff like kind of what we're talking about, and
Mhm.
I don't enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not able to. Then I feel like I'm okay. Move this here. Move the camera. Like we're no long. I'm no longer really doming you. We're creating a movie.
Yeah.
Like we're not even in the dynamic anymore because we're worried about all the technical aspects.
Yeah.
It's just not
And
that fun.
there's a lot, like a lot. When you're filming, people don't realize how much time and effort goes into planning that and how much you have to accommodate. Like angles are the biggest thing. Like, and some of those angles are hard to get, which is why it's easier having like a third person to do those angles. But realistically, if you want something that's going to be like an overall positive experience without limited range of motion, I would highly suggest to not have us take 2 hours prep to get
Yeah,
in all these extravagant suits because um it might look really nice, definitely looks good on camera, but how's it going to feel?
yeah.
So getting to that, the more I guess throwing out the props, dealing with more primal and kind of digging your claws in, do you have any regrets over your lifespan as a dom?
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't say so.
Awesome.
I can't think of any incidents. I've had safe experience. I've never had any close calls with anything.
Mhm.
I've never really had like I've had less than desirable experiences, but I've never really had like truly where I could say bad experiences.
Right.
I mean, I do have the advantage of having that prior experience in sex work in general, which I
Yeah.
think set me up for this success. So I do have that, but I don't really have any regrets.
Good. I'm super glad to hear that. I I always like whenever people have a more positive experience,
Mhm.
especially in sex work, because that's what I like to shine a light on. Be like, we are here because we want to be, damn it.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. I love it.
Sweet. So, let's kind of go back to you as being self-employed, being your own boss. We both know we both love that shit. What does it look like for you on a day-to-day basis? So, for responsibilities for Lacey, what does it look like for you?
Um, Most days it's just a matter of being attentive to my email.
Mhm.
I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, my website is pretty static. I don't
Mhm.
uh and maybe I should in the future, right? I'm a pretty busy person, so I don't change out photos or um the text. My website's there as a business tool, as like, this is my business, this is what
Mhm.
I offer.
Right.
I have a little, Q&A section, but it's not something that needs to change all the time because these are facts. Like if you
Mhm.
want to be essentially, I mean, submissives at the end of the day are customers.
Yes.
Um, so this is the information I provide for the customer. So I don't
Right.
really change a whole bunch on my website.
Mhm.
So that's pretty much set. So it really comes down to on a day-to-day basis, just doing checking my emails.
Mhm.
Like you said, I do have a Twitter. I don't post every single day. there
Mhm.
was, there's different points where I do post every day. There's been points where I post 2, 3 times a day, but because I've been in class and stuff, I've been really, really busy just juggling
Mhm.
all these different aspects of my life. So
Right.
I haven't been posting every day, but
Right.
that's another aspect, like taking photos and posting little blips for Twitter. And
Mhm.
Twitter's just kind of a free advertising space.
Yes.
And I haven't kept up, but I don't know what's happening. Supposedly there's some shit happening with Twitter. I don't know. It's going down or
Yeah.
something. I don't really know.
It's all kinds of crazy shit with Elon's takeover and him firing a bunch of the company and him changing like inner workings of it. And it's been a mess with Apple. It's like everybody. Okay, so what he wanted to do essentially was make Twitter like OnlyFans. He
Hmm.
wanted people to be able to pay for content, which would be fucking huge for him. Very intelligent idea.
Yeah.
Um, Also creates another platform. It's annoying that we would have to like then monitor and post on something else, but at all the same time, I mean, we've already got following there, so that's kind of cool. You don't have to start from scratch.
Right.
But not everybody is okay with the adult content aspect. They're like,
Right.
"Oh yeah, it's a cool idea until you add these naked people in." Like that's a bit selfish of you. Let me just throw that out there. That's a bit selfish of you because somebody that doesn't want to be on that end of Twitter just shouldn't be there to begin with. Like, don't be shitting on somebody else's parade. Just don't be there. It's not that
Right.
hard. Like, if you're trying to Google something, Google what you want, not what other people want.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't see why it's a problem. But yeah, so Apple's trying to kick out the Twitter app and all this other shit, and it's just been a mess. It's been a mess. And also, there's been the recent, oh my, did you see how crazy the adult industry has been lately with testing? There are
No.
so many people that recently have got chlamydia and all these other STIs because people aren't testing properly. They are not being honorable. And let me tell you, it is disturbing because that goes to not just a safety issue, but that is a violation. Like all around, that is a violation. It's a violation of trust. It's a violation of space. It's a violation of honor. Like, where's your ethical code? Like, what is happening? Why is it so hard for you just to go get tested?
So is this like within the escorting community or within
Porn
porn?
stars. Yeah, they even froze. I follow three of the testing um companies,
Hmm.
and Pass literally froze the testing period because so many people were sick. So many people had STIs. So they literally completely froze it. And I was just sitting here like, what the hell? How can so many people be so irresponsible? Like, this is your safety and your coworkers' safety. Like, what are you doing?
Wow.
That would be like one of our clients lying through screening, being like, oh no, I'm okay. And then you find out later that they have some kind of illness and then they have a heart attack because they didn't give you this information. And like, that's your safety and their safety too. That just goes back to be honest. Like, take the time off. I know everybody has to work, but take the time off until you're better, not get more people sick.
Yeah.
That's like you don't show up for work with COVID. Like, what is wrong with people? It's not worth $100. It's not worth $200. It's not worth $1,000. Take the time so you're not hurting other people. It's just crazy to me that so many people are so selfish, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Wow.
what's been going on with Twitter.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know about that.
It's
Yikes.
been, woo, it's been a crazy one. It's been a crazy one. So, um, the last question that I have for you is whenever you kind of got into yourself, developed your name, How did you decide you were going to market yourself? Like, is there a specific platform that you preferred more? Even some that aren't available now, obviously, there were so many that were shut down. But did you have a platform that just it was popping? That's where you got the majority of your clients from?
So Backpage, it was all about Backpage.
Mhm.
Um, and we used that for touring. So before it was shut down, like it was the best thing ever because we could literally take a chance and be like, we're gonna go to this town even though we don't have pre-books, and
Mhm.
we know like we're gonna pop up with something because it was just such I don't know the word. I don't know. A fluent website? No, not a fluent.
Okay.
I
Like
don't know. It was
lucrative?
just yeah, it was just so well known by the people who
Mhm.
wanted that kind of stuff that
Mhm.
it was like we just knew we'd be okay. Like,
Yeah.
and now it's like for touring, it, it all has to be pre-books. Like, I'm not going anywhere without the pre-books. I'm not taking a
100%.
chance on the cost of my travel, and it does suck because it's like I toured with Miss Katja out of Greensboro, and we like went all kinds of places. Like, we had a whole adventure for a kind of a large chunk of time. Like,
Mhm.
we would go to hotels and do our work and then go out to eat every night
Mhm.
and celebrate if we had a good day, and it was like
Yeah.
it was really fun. And it's like it's not like you can't do that anymore really.
Yeah.
And so that was the big one. um that's like really the only big one that I remember
Mhm.
using from back in the day. There was Craigslist Personals, but that was never like not even close to
Yeah.
Backpage. I used Dicky Virgin early on, and I have some static listings there.
Mhm.
Um, I try to remember. I don't always do the best job. I try to remember people. Hey, where did you find me? And I
Right.
don't always remember, but I think I do have an advantage, and you probably do too, where you're at. Like, because it's a little smaller, we're few and far between. So the people who are serious about finding us, they'll find us because it's not
Yes.
like we're oversaturated. Like,
Right.
okay, you look up this area, like I'm the only real one, or that I'm aware of. I'm the only real one where
Yeah.
I am. So if you're
Yes.
intent on finding me, you're gonna find me.
Yes.
And that
100%.
makes the clientele, even though you're not getting as much work, like that makes the clientele a little better because they had to dig to find you
Yeah.
sometimes. They have to know the channels to go through. We can't
Yes.
advertise on regular places. We can't use
Mhm.
Google Ads. We can't
Yeah.
use different things that other small businesses get to use.
Yeah. I really wish we did. I'm just gonna throw that
Yeah,
out there
yeah.
because that would make life so much easier for us. I have found that we do have um we're the only ones in our area, so we do have kind of more flexibility, but I've also found that that creates some issues too because the least like with a lower population because of our rural areas, I found that it is harder to find those consistent clients, and it is harder to kind of get the regularity because I don't know about Tennessee, but Kentucky is quite poverty stricken too. So the majority of my money I literally have to travel for, which is
Hmm.
super annoying. Like Lexington, Louisville, Cincinnati, like those are my huge stops. And I travel several hours to get to those
I bet.
because it's like I'm in the middle of nowhere and it's exhausting. So, um whenever you were doing your touring, did you like it more than staying just in one location?
I mean, yeah, sorta. It but everything has its pros and cons. I mean, it did
Mhm.
get exhausting, and it's like even with any kind of travel, at some point you want to go home, you know?
Yeah.
You
Yep.
get sick of eating out. Like it's fun at first. At some point you get sick of eating out.
Yeah.
You get sick of not having like, you know, living out of a suitcase.
Yeah.
Um, it's nice to have that option though. It's
Yeah, it is.
fun.
Yep. It's like one of
Um,
those visit kind of things. You want to visit, but you don't want to stay.
yeah. And actually, to be honest though, like we didn't do a lot of exploring in the towns that we were in because
Mhm.
we'd have our sessions and you know, our setup, our cleanup, our, you know, normal functions like eating meals and stuff like that. And it
Mhm.
wasn't like we got to go out and like tour the city, like we were there
Right.
for work.
Right.
But it was still cool. It was just cool to be able to do something to have that experience. And like, we'll always remember that how much
Yeah.
good time we had on the road.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. 100%. Okay. Well, I will let you get back to your day. Thank you so much, Miss Laci, for being so amazing and being such a good guest today on Forbidden Depths.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're always welcome. Thank you guys for listening and supporting the channel. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. You have an amazing day.